What is going on, everyone? Alex Corbacera here, host of the ASM Sports Podcast, and this is episode number 2. This podcast is your one-stop shop if you are looking to come play college sports in America. You're a student athlete, a parent, a coach, a teacher. You have students or family members or yourself are interested in coming over here. This is where you get a bit of an insight to learn more about what we do, the services here at ASM, what's available, the opportunities, but also why our point of difference compared to other competitors in the market and why you should sign up with ASM Sports. Today's episode really focuses on soccer opportunities. We're sitting down with our Director of Athlete Recruitment and Oscar McConnell. He's a former collegiate soccer player from the UK, has been through the system, and then also has been really taking like a duck to water at placing students, helping with pro opportunities, sponsorships, and all the different sort of aspects of the journey we discuss in this episode. A reminder, if you want to learn more about ASM Sports and what we do, you can check us out at asmsports.co. And then at the same time as well, we have our app. Please go to the App Store, look for ASM Sports. It's a really easy access opportunity to build a profile, to reach out to coaches. There's so much active recruiting going on that platform, and you don't want to miss out. So let's get into that episode now with Oscar, and I'll see you in a sec. And we are joined by Oscar McConnell, our Director of Athlete Recruitment here at ASM Sports, and one of the top sort of staff we have in recruitment and getting players signed up and also placing, and a former athlete yourself as well. Oscar, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Great to be on.
Well, let's start a bit about yourself and get a bit about your story, and then we'll get into everything that we're doing at ASM now.
Yeah, for sure. So grew up in England, grew up in the UK, as you can probably tell by the accent, still haven't lost it, although I've been in the States 8 years. Came out here when I was 18, pretty similar story to a lot of lads growing up in England, wanted to be a professional footballer at 18, was okay, was decent, but didn't end up happening for me at 18. And I kind of thought, right, well, what's next? And I knew I wanted to continue to push my football to the highest level I could, but not at the expense of education. I also wanted to get a university degree. So that's kind of what led me to America. Came over here in 2017, went to a Division I university called American University. Not a very inventive name, believe it or not. But in the capital city in Washington. So had a great 4 years there. Lots of ups and downs in terms of played in some very different teams with some good success, some times of struggle, and ended up then transferring on to Coastal Carolina University for my last year of playing to do my master's degree, and then kind of work my way down the East Coast again. Wound up in Florida to start here at ASM 3 years ago. Wow.
And, very exciting. And I guess, as a footballer in the UK, initially, did you have US on your radar? Like, how did you sort of stumble upon the opportunities and that you eventually found?
Yeah, no, good question. So it wasn't on my radar probably till I was about 16, 17. All I thought about from the age of 7 years old every single day was signing a pro contract, being a professional footballer. And when you're younger, or when I was younger, you kind of had that belief that would happen and things would fall into place and it would work out that way. When I distinctly remember kind of like a penny drop moment when I was in my second last year of youth football. I was just turned 17. And I remember looking at it and thinking, right, in 1 year from now, I need to be in a position where I can go and rip a professional contract away from a 28-year-old in my position who's played 400 games in the Football League. And I remember I was always quite self-aware as a player. That was probably a strength of mine. And I was able to look at it and say, as much as I'd like that to happen, I think that's going to be tough. And at that time, I'd had some older teammates who'd moved on and they'd gone out to America and they'd come back and they'd said great things. And I remember thinking it surely can't be as good as they're saying it is. But I decided to look into it and kind of the rest was history.
Wow, so exciting. And, as well, I guess, for a lot of our athletes, one of the things that I try and tell them is potentially, especially when you're higher sort of echelon in the country that you're in and you're aiming sort of for the top, if that dream maybe doesn't come to fruition, the ability to turn all that 10,000 hours, that blood, sweat and tears, your parents driving you to all these practices into a pathway to really accelerate your education, still get to play the sport. You now have a US sort of a college degree and a master's. Like, what an opportunity this pathway can be.
Yeah, 100%. And I think listen, there's always exceptions to the rule, right? If you're Lamine Yamal and you're 16 years old and you're already starting in the Euros for Spain, yeah, you're going to go and make millions of dollars of playing football, and you're going to be that special kind of exception to the rule. So I always say, look, this isn't maybe the right pathway for everyone. Everyone's different in terms of what they want to do and where they want to get to. The reality is now, college soccer, you've got players that are turning down pro contracts to come and do this, right? So a lot of the time I'll spend kind of maybe educating players and families on it is, look, by coming to the US, you're not actually turning your back on the pro dream. If you're good enough, there's a proven pathway here where on the back end with your university degree, you can still go and play pro. I played with 6 or 7 lads in my university team that are now playing pro, one of which was in La Liga last season. So the pathway's there for you to do that. But on the flip side, if you don't get pro, you get injured, or you're like myself and you're still not quite there at 22, you've had a hell of a time playing full-time football at a really good level, flying around the country and kind of living like a pro. You've almost had a taste of it. Now you can get paid as well. And then you've got a degree to fall back on. So there's certainly positives to the pathway for sure.
Yeah, and I think you touched on probably my next question was going to be about NIL and some of the sort of explosion that's happening in college sports with sort of the ability for players to do, commercial sort of opportunities with their image rights and stuff. Like how exciting is that, especially in soccer, which is a proven sort of sport at the top level of college sports?
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. And I think it's to say that the game's changed here the last 2 years would be an understatement. As I mentioned, we're in a position now where players are turning down pro contracts to come and do this because not only can you get a full scholarship, but you can, if you're a top soccer player, you can be on 50 grand a year on top of your full scholarship here, right? So it's an exciting time. You've got the third party NIL endorsements where you can be sponsored and things like that. The universities now, some of them also pay their players directly, and you be part of a revenue share with the university that, if you're at a power conference, you've got universities that are bringing in, are sharing $20 million per year with their athletes. And that's kind of the cap they have right now. So it's an exciting time. I wish I could maybe wind back the clock and be coming into it now.
Yeah, and I guess, that's what's super exciting. And I think, as we transitioned a little bit more to what you're doing now with ASM, what an opportunity you've had actually having a degree, a master's degree, and now being able to transition into sort of full-time work and really sort of excelling in a new industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a crazy ride. And I remember I was quite nervous when I finished playing and I finished university because I'd never known life without playing. And I was 23 years old and I never knew really. I had interests outside of just playing, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do for work. And I remember the opportunity came up. I had a teammate of mine who actually did an internship here at ASM and he told me about it. And I thought, that sounds exactly what I want to do. Stay involved in football, help people kind of follow a similar journey maybe to what I went on as a player and as a student. And I love it. It is nothing replaces playing. You probably know that yourself, but it's
Yeah.
for me, it's probably the next best thing, in terms of what I could do now, staying involved and sounds like a bit cheesy, but, quite literally helping lads and girls achieve dreams. It's a special feeling.
No, it really is. And I think, for someone like yourself as well, as for athletes that are maybe thinking about coming over here, that transition after university, if you aren't playing pro sport, it's important to sort of connect and try and find a job so that you can sort of stay here longer term.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the time, if I kind of tie that back into soccer, which is what I work with the most, a lot of people, I was the same as a player. You kind of have in your head, if I make it pro, I've made it pro. The reality is there's a massive drop-off of lads that do sign a pro contract to lads that stay in the pro game and end up making a full career out of it. And I remember there's an amazing stat from Arsene Wenger. 67% of lads that sign a pro contract between the age of 16 and 20 are no longer playing soccer or football at any level by the time they're 21. So it's like, even for the guys that do get a 1 year pro, right, or do get a 2 year pro, you're probably still going to have to work after you finish playing, right, which is where the education can come in really helpful.
No, I think that's spot on. And now let's transition to what you're doing here. Obviously, head of athlete recruitment. You know, you are sort of one of the flagships operators here at ASM Sports. Talk a little bit about your role, what you do, and the athletes that you help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So front end, I kind of do a mixture of things in terms of front end and back end with the athlete. The front end, my main responsibility will be to help identify, I'll have certain scouts that will identify players and kind of connect them with me. And I'll then do a comprehensive assessment with that player and that family in terms of, look, based on your sport level, based on your academics, based on where you want to get to, these are the kind of options that we think are realistic for you. And that can vary massively depending on the individual. But firstly, giving like a really transparent, clear outlook on, look, this is what you can expect out of this journey for year one in terms of your landing spot. From there is to kind of educate, the player, the family on the different divisions here, the different areas, the different academic pathways. And once the athlete makes the jump, commits with us, a lot of the time, depending on the profile, I'll tap into my network as well with coaches and actually help connect them directly for them to receive scholarship offers. Going beyond that, bigger picture stuff for the top players, where it's realistic, I can help them with things like pro opportunities. We've had 3 lads this year sign pro contracts. Big announcement coming soon. Actually, I helped a lad get a pro contract 2 weeks ago. Once that's finalised and signed, we'll be able to announce that. But
How good, mate.
And then the NIL stuff, USL2 semi-pro opportunities as well. So there's bigger picture stuff kind of down the road as well, if it's realistic for the player that we can help with.
And well, obviously, pro, what an achievement and what a valuable sort of thing that we have at ASM Sports as well, which I do think help differentiate us from a lot of the competition. Is we have a good footprint in the United States. We have ex-athletes and agents and coaches and an all sort of network of people across a number of sports that really open up so much opportunity for these athletes, more than just a day one recruitment service sort of thing that just get you over here and toss you over into the United States.
100%. I think the aftercare is what I'd call it. You get the scholarship offer and then what, right? A lot of the players, the boys, the girls that we deal with, a lot of them are internationals, right? And they're like I was, moving maybe 3,000, 4,000 plus miles away from home for the first time, here in the States, which is, where we're located. So we do have a big responsibility to make sure that it's not just right, job done, got your placement, got your scholarship offer and move on to the next player. Often a lot of the work is actually post-arrival and looking after them, making sure that even as simple as having someone to pick up the phone to if they've got a problem with the coach, a problem with their accommodation, their roommate, the little things, is so important to help them transition, not just as athletes and students, but also as people.
No, definitely. And just, a little bit about sort of the process of what athletes go through. So from day one of sort of maybe getting connected to you through a scout, what would sort of potential athletes or parents viewing this sort of, get to expect with working with yourself and ASM Sports?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, the first thing, typically a scout will qualify and identify an athlete's level academically and athletically and make a judgment that, they're ready to meet me and to talk more seriously about their recruitment. I'll do an initial kind of consultation call with the player, the family, to almost do like an extra layer of due diligence, if you like, to determine on our side if this is a good fit. At that same time, right, I'll be giving kind of objective information about ourselves, about the pathway that for the family to make the decision on, are we a good fit and is the US a good fit for them? Typically, I'll probably do anywhere from 1 to 5 calls of about an hour long with a player and their family, where we go over every detail and every question of the process that they need an answer to in order to make a judgment on if this is the right pathway for them. That might take place over the period of 3 or 4 weeks, let's say, or sometimes a little bit longer. And if by the end of that process, however long that takes, we're in a position where we feel like we're on the same page and we align, the player would make a commitment with us. They would sign on and we'd get underway with coaches, setting up their profile, connecting them, negotiating scholarship offers and so on.
And I guess as well, that is really one of the things that I think we do very as well, and yourself, is actually negotiating that scholarship. Some people maybe think they could just sometimes reach out and they're going to get the sort of the best deal or the option, but there's a little bit more nuance to the process, and it's something like skilled operators like yourself with experience add a lot of value on this service.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a lot of the time it's case by case. It's when to push and how to push. And I think one of the things that we're big on with athletes is prepping them for how to handle communications with coaches, because I've seen athletes in the past make or break an offer for themselves based on how they've approached that and the kind of character that they've conveyed to a coach. So when it comes to the scholarship negotiation, some coaches, they will operate differently. Some coaches will give the best offer out of the gate to an athlete. Other coaches might give an offer and maybe hold back a little bit, and they might be receptive if you go back and say, look, is there some leeway here? So it's all case by case, but absolutely kind of handling the nuances, like you said, with coaches can sometimes be a make or break for an athlete.
And also with the process, there's sort of visas, there's getting yourself prepped for sort of the US sort of college application process with, from SATs to other numbers. There's a lot of different sort of aspects that come into the process as well that you and your team help athletes handle.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I was going through this process, me and my mum didn't have anyone to help with that. And it was a headache. It's doable, right? If you really put your mind to it. But I think what we try and do there is one, take the workload and the stress off your hand, but also avoid anything going wrong from an organisational point of view, where you turn up to an embassy interview and you don't have the right documentation, which could flat out lead to a denial, right, of your visa, right? So it's important that we project manage that side as well, and help. We obviously have Nikki and we have the placement team who kind of specialise on as well as the sports side, kind of the non-sports side, the academic, red tape, paperwork, visa stuff. So thankfully we've got a lot of resources and kind of expertise in place for that too.
Very awesome, mate. And I think you do a fantastic job. And we're going to keep touching on, different athletes, their journeys on this podcast as well. I really appreciate you sharing yours. And probably, a couple things to probably sum up is like, how exciting is the US sporting landscape from when you came over maybe at 18 to now? What sort of growth and changes have you really seen?
Yeah, it's massive. It was massive when I came out here already 7-8 years ago. It was already by far the biggest, highest level, most established, most lucrative sports and education together environment in the world. There's nowhere sports-wise that's comparable in an educational setting, in my opinion. But I think that's probably quite objective, really, and that was the case then. But now with the advent of pay to play, with NIL money, with universities being able to pay players and athletes, it's become so professionalized that often I'm saying to players of a certain level, look, you're not actually sacrificing the pro side to come here and do this. Like, you are going to live like a professional and you're going to be paid in some cases like a professional, depending on the player. So it's moving in a very exciting direction. And I think linking it again to the pro side and to clubs around the world, I'm finding now with interactions with some people in those spaces that they're starting now to respect more and more players coming out of the level here, because the buzz around it, the proof is in the pudding of kind of where some of those players have gone on to play. Players that have gone into the Premier League, La Liga, from the university environment, right? So, yeah, it's certainly an exciting space.
Yeah, it really is. And I guess as we're wrapping up, sort of, if you've got any sort of parents or athletes watching this, what would be your advice, your sort of, statement of why they should work with ASM and advice on the process in general?
Yeah, no, really good question. I get asked this quite a lot by parents in terms of why should we go with you, or what makes you different to the competition, you could call it. And I always say is what I say now, this is probably where you expect me to give like a 15-second elevator speech in terms of, look, this is why we're the best. And I don't like to do that. I want to work with people who feel that we're the best fit. And I would encourage them to ask me and us a certain set of questions that they should also be asking other people. And listen, one bit of advice I'd give, which is what me and my mum didn't do, is go and speak to more than one person. Go and make your own mind up of who the best fit is. We didn't do that. We spoke to the first person that we we kind of came into contact with, and it turned out to be a pretty poor decision from us. So, I'd be looking at track record. I'd be asking for objective information about how many people have you placed, where have you placed them, the quality of the scholarships, the quality of the universities, who have you got, as part of kind of the company. I'm not aware probably of many agencies that have guys like yourself, Corbs, who have played at an international level in the professional game, coached out here at a professional level, that are now directly involved with athletes, right? And we've obviously got others in ASM as well with similar backgrounds. So if you kind of look at who's maybe attached to the company, who's behind this, who's endorsing it from an athlete perspective at the college and the pro level, a coach's perspective, in terms of the university level, and obviously the track record and being based here in the States, those are some things that I'd be asking of anybody to kind of see, like, is that something that you've got on hand, and that I'd probably be pointing out about what we offer at ASM as well.
Awesome, mate. And then maybe just to finish as well, if there are any coaches sort of watching as well, why ASM, and why should we be their sort of place to go for finding some of their recruits as well?
Yeah, really good question. And I think my answer for that one would be, if you're sent a player by ASM, you're being sent that player who's been vetted by a coach, a former coach in your position. We're not kind of an agency that, none of us have ever coached. I haven't personally, but, we have coaches on the placement team here who have been in a coach's shoes, recruiting players, evaluating players, and have an in-depth understanding of the intricacies of the different levels, divisions, and so on. So, if you're a coach receiving an athlete from us, it's not from a place of, hey, listen, we've got a bit of knowledge about what your program's about. Take a look at this guy. Let's try and sell him to you. It's, no, you've got a coach who has evaluated this athlete and identified your program because he understands your program. He understands how high the level is, and feels that this athlete is a really good fit from the standpoint of someone that has recruited athletes in college themselves.
Awesome, Oscar, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Keep doing all the good work that you're doing, and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Top man. Really appreciate it, mate. See you soon.
Cheers, pal. Another fantastic episode. Number 2 in the books. Huge shout out for Oscar to coming on as well. Apologies if maybe you thought the footage was a little, lower reg than what we're used to in episode 1. I had a few technical difficulties, but the episode was so good, I felt we had to post it out. Thank you for continuing with this. We'll be back very shortly with more episodes, hearing from more ASM sports staff, more of our case studies of ex-students who have been through, and also, more coaches and more insight into what all is the world of opportunities in America with collegiate sports. It really is an exciting landscape. A reminder too, if you didn't check out episode 1, go back and listen to episode 1. It's myself. We have Ryan Fitzgerald, the director of rugby at Loyola New Orleans, a brand new program that's gone varsity. We learn about opportunities and what they're looking for on the men and women's sides in collegiate rugby. And then we speak with one of our alumni, James Rithers, who came from Clifton College in the UK to University of Arizona, then was drafted in the MLR, has played 2 years in the MLR, is American qualified. He talks about the experience, the opportunities, and all that working with ASM has given him. And that's a great way to get a bit more insight in what do we do. And I hope this episode really delivered. Again, check out asmsports.co if you want to find out more about our services, what we do, the different packages, the app that we have. And if you want to download the app, go to the App Store, ASM Sports. It really is an amazing tool. There's a free version or the paid version, only $5 a month. And you can literally start from the ground up, build your profile, build your ability, all your details, academics, sporting, your budget, bits about you. You can reach out to coaches directly. You can see who is watching your profile. And what is also amazing about it too is we have a lot of how-to guides of how to get recruited, what the steps are. And then here at ASM, we are ready and waiting to help you scale up your service if you feel like you need more support and you want people like myself, Oscar, and the other amazing staff at ASM Sports going to work for you and helping you chase your dream of coming to America and playing collegiate sports. That's a wrap on episode 2. We'll be back with a third pretty soon.